So this is just a test. We're gonna see how this actually works out.
Should be good. Should be good.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, Steelers all day. What's good?
What's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, my friend?
Good, guys. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay. I'm just gonna turn up the volume on my side a little bit. So we got you. But yeah, we can hear you all right, man. Thank you so much for coming through and joining into the live.
Hey, man. Anytime I can talk about motorcycles, I'm down.
Yeah, man. I know. Can you do me a favor? Can you turn up your volume a little bit if you have that?
I've got an AirPod in. I'll throw the other one in, see if it helps.
There we go.
Is it any better?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Now we can hear a lot better, which is good. So, you are a trainer at Ride Safe Training Institute.
That's
How long
correct.
Have you been riding?
I've been riding on the street since I was 18. So
man,
I'm 34 now.
Damn. You're a youngin'. Jesus.
Yeah, still wet behind the ears.
You're a youngin'. I got 20 years on you, bro.
It wouldn't look like it. Doesn't look like it.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm getting old.
I'm getting old.
You getting old.
I getting old. He ain't getting it. I getting old, man. That's crazy. So today we're gonna be talking about a little bit about training, but more so about bikes. I know you're a bike enthusiast, and we got a lot of new people that are trying to get into the game, trying to ride, doing all stuff, and we have guys that are buying bikes that are way too big, too fast for them. You know, guys that just got their license but trying to run on a leader bike and stuff like that. So
they just don't understand that they don't have the respect for the machine.
Exactly. But not only that, it's buying a bike. It depends on a lot of factors. So let's talk about the factors that depends on buying a bike. I know that weight, height is a factor, which a lot of people don't think about, but it is a factor because you need a bike that's going to carry your weight, right? Because there is the weight. Bikes can only carry a certain amount of weight
for sure,
loaded and whatnot, so forth, right? So you have to look at that. You have to look at your height.
Yep.
Because if you're a short person, you know, you can only lower a bike so far. And well, you're the trainer, so what do you look for? Like, if a person's going to buy a bike, what would you tell them to look for, and how would you go about trying to set them up for it?
So for my students, I get the biggest question. Oh, what do you recommend for a starter bike?
Right.
Okay, and there's so many things you can go over. The style of bike is the first thing. What style of bike are you interested in riding?
Right.
Okay, so you've got from super sport full fairings like the CBR, GSXR, into the like M1000s and stuff like that, or S1Ks. You've got all that stuff. You got Aprilia and all those higher end full fairing bikes. And a lot of my students, that's what they want. They want to get into a Gixxer or a CBR or a Ninja,
right?
Something along the lines of that. And my first question to them, I said, okay, how much experience do you have? And most of the time it's, well, from what I have here, right?
Yeah.
So they spend 16 hours on the lot, and they want to end up getting onto a 600 full fairing sport bike. And that's just, it's a death wish waiting to happen.
Of course.
Right? So you get some guys that have some experience from back home. We get a lot of Indians through our place, and they come here with amazing skills. They just need the fine tuning stuff. They usually listen pretty good with fixing some of their small issues that they have. But the biggest thing is, for me, the bike needs to fit you properly.
Right.
You have to feel comfortable when your hands are on the grips and your butt is in the seat.
Right.
So,
now, do you
biggest thing
have to? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you also have to have your feet on the ground? Because I know some people will buy their bike and then they can't touch.
Yeah,
they're on tippy toes.
Yeah. So if you have that issue, then you need to pick a smaller bike, because lowering the bike throws off the whole geometry of the bike.
Right.
Okay, because they don't make lowering kits for the front end. You have to move your forks through your trees to get the front end lower. Now, you lower the back end of the bike, the whole geometry of that motorcycle has now been thrown off,
Right.
which can
So
be
basically,
dangerous cornering,
yeah,
right? So you get somebody that's 5'5" that hops on a ZX6,
yeah,
for instance. Okay. A ZX6. So my partner, she is, I'd say about 5'9", and she can just tippy toe on her ZX6.
damn,
And she's got 3 or 4 years experience, and she wants to go to a smaller bike.
right,
So if you can't touch the ground with, I'd say, at least half of your foot for a new beginner rider, then you need to be looking for a smaller
right,
bike. Start off,
and
get the first year insurance through as well. That's another thing that impacts bikes is insurance, which we can chat about later on.
yeah,
But you want to be comfortable. It doesn't matter about your ego. If you want a sport bike, you'll get a sport bike eventually.
yeah.
But try not to adjust the suspension too much, or get a bike that you can like you can actually electronically adjust the suspension, but then you're into spending massive money.
And that's the whole thing. Like with going with a smaller bike, like when people ask me, I usually refer people to a 500cc or 400cc. I wouldn't go 300 because I find 300 is way too small, and by the time that you run 2 months, you're already tired of the bike.
Yeah, you're
Go
done with
faster.
it.
Negative to go faster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always say 500 is your best overall, because it's still not, and you can correct me wrong, if it's still not a super sports in the sense that you're not doing that super
Yep.
lean, right? You're not crouched down too much. You're still upright for the most part. It
Yep.
still gives you the speed that you might want, just in case you have to get out of situation. I'm not saying that you got to be
You're looking to
touch
yeah.
and weave in and out of traffic, but it gives you that speed and that response to get out of a situation if you have to. And for most part, the 500s are great for anybody, regardless of your height. You can still touch the ground and stuff like that, right? So that's what
Absolutely. So one of the biggest bikes I recommend to students if they want the super sport feel is the Ninja 400 or Ninja 500.
Mhm.
Okay, and if they want something like the biggest problem is Suzuki doesn't make anything like that. They make the GS X8S is the closest thing to a 500 in that style, unless you do the I think Suzuki's got one. They have I forget the name of it now. Oh, the SV650.
Yeah.
But it's a 650, and they are fairly quick bikes too, fairly torquey. But the biggest one that I recommend is the Ninja, the 400 and 500.
And because of they have the look of the sports bike, of the super sports, and because they're more agile and a good beginner bike.
They're a great beginner bike. The prices are very good in my opinion. They're not crazy high. They're pretty reasonably priced. As far as I know, you can get a Ninja 500 for under $9,000.
Yeah,
brand new.
Brand new, yeah. So, which is fantastic. And I think a lot of people, like you said, a lot of these guys that are coming in, they look at the bikes that others are riding or their friends are riding, and they're on the 600s or they're 750s, right? And they're doing, and a lot of people love that sports, right? So that's what they're looking for. But you've been riding for 18 years, or sorry, since you're 18. I've been riding almost 15 years. It's a crazy thing because riding is totally different, and it depends on what your style. Like you mentioned earlier about different types. You have the sports bikes, you have the cruisers. Mm-hmm. So it also depends on what kind of style of riding that you want to do.
Exactly.
Right.
I started with cruisers. Being a bigger dude, I was like, you know what? I'm going to look like a meathead on a okay.
Yep.
So, but I started with the cruiser. I think I was 17 or I think I was 18 when I started on the streets. I'd bought a V-Star 1100.
Yeah.
That's what my dad had. He said, well, you know what? If you want to get a bike, I'm going to lead you into this. And he got me into that. I loved it, had it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I upgraded to a Yamaha Roadliner, which I was a complete
Yeah.
show bike, and then I went right from that to sports bikes. I've got a GSXS 1000
Yeah.
and multiple other. I got three supermotos, a couple other bikes, and
Nice.
I love the whole leaning into a corner, which I couldn't do with my cruiser.
No.
And like, yeah, I'm a bigger dude. I'm like 280. So riding a GSXS 1000 probably looks hilarious. But at the end of the day, I'm out there riding and I have fun
Yeah.
still.
I mean, I did the same thing when I started. I'm a bigger guy too. So I started on a cruiser. I had a Vulcan 800,
Hmm.
right? And I rode that for 5 years. Mind you, the guys that I was riding with too, they were all on cruisers, so it just made sense. And you know, you do
Yep.
your
Easy
long
to
hauls,
keep up.
easy to keep up and everything like that. I mean, I have friends at the time when I started riding that were on Gixxers, they were on the R1s.
Yep.
And I remember that I was going out with them and they're like, yeah, yeah. And they knew I was a new rider too. You know, we got on the highway. We were just going up to Wonderland.
Okay.
We got on the highway and then all of a sudden I hear click, click, and these guys are gone. They're
Oh, yeah.
gone. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I guess I'll meet them up there. Right. So it is a difference between going for a cruiser and going for a sports bike. Yes, I also have multiple bikes.
Mhm.
Right, I have the R6. I have the Concourse, which is sport touring. Right, and I kind of
Yeah.
like the sports touring.
I think that's what's probably best because it gives you the best of both worlds at that point,
Yeah,
right? You get the comfortable ride of a cruiser, but you got that sleek look and the speed of a sport bike.
Yeah.
exactly.
You know
And
what I mean? So
what was the model of it? Sorry.
Which on the Concourse, the Cowie Concourse
Yeah.
1400.
Yeah.
Because then you have the FJ. Is it the FJ from Yamaha? FJ something. I can't remember. Yamaha has one too, which is a really nice bike. A lot of guys like that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. So
overall,
yeah, I'm
go
just
on. Sorry.
looking up the Concourse
Yeah.
here. I couldn't put a
I'll
face
take-
to it, but yeah, it the Z, no, what is it? The H2SE looks a
yeah.
lot like that. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
So
that'd be a beauty bike to hop on the highway and just go for a day or two.
and that's the whole thing. And this is why I love the Concourse because it does give you the speed
Yep.
to keep up if you're rolling with guys that are strictly on sports.
Hmm.
And it gives you the comfort of being upright so that you're not killing your back and you can go for those long runs. So if you're bunching with a whole bunch of cruisers, you have no issues chilling out and going for 4, 6, 7 hour ride, you know, and not even
being a
affected,
pain.
not being
And
pain
I
or
mean,
anything
even
like
the
that.
gas mileage. I mean, gas mileage is also probably good because I mean, the sport touring they have a bigger tank as well, right?
Absolutely.
So you can get a little further.
Yeah.
You know, whereas you got these guys on the sport bikes looking all pretty, but every 3-4 o'clock, I got to gas up. Yeah, I mean, we
They're
can't go for
passing
those
everything.
4-hour rides. It's not as
Exactly.
easy. So
Passing everything.
getting
but
that happy medium is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So,
So I'm assuming that Concourse would be the same engine as the ZX14, just
yep,
retuned a bit.
exactly. It's just tuned a little bit different. That's all.
Hmm.
So I can move. These guys always like,
Oh, yeah.
man, I can't believe you can catch up like that. I'm like, yeah, the bike is fast,
Yeah.
but I usually don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So let's go with brands of bikes because, as you said, there's a whole bunch of brands of bikes. Suzuki doesn't make a 500.
No, as far as I know, they don't.
Right. They're usually a 6. I think. No, they actually don't. I don't think.
Kawasaki makes the Z500 if
Yeah.
people are interested in a naked style bike. But I think the smallest style bike that Suzuki makes, I'm just going to search it here quick, but I'm pretty sure it's the SV650.
Yeah, I think that's what it is for that. Well, let me ask you this. Why do you guys use the 125s and the 250s for training instead of going to like a 300?
So with the smaller bikes that we have for the shorter people, we've actually had to go out and lower some of our smaller bikes. So
Right.
our biggest stock on bikes that we have is the Honda Grom.
Okay.
So we have lots of the Honda Groms, we have a fair bit of the Yamaha TW200s, which they were new
Yeah.
last year. And then we have the Duke 200s.
Okay. Yeah.
The KTM Duke 200s. So we do have a couple 300 cc's on the lot. We have some of the Honda Rebel 300s.
Okay.
So we try to keep them on the smaller side of the CC wise, as for parts are a bit cheaper.
Okay.
Right? We do go through a lot of brake levers and
Yeah.
foot pegs and stuff like that, and our panels do get damaged when people unfortunately do fall over.
Yeah.
But we tend to keep those smaller bikes. One would be the cost of them. It's lower than something that's in a 300 or 400 cc for a sport
Yeah.
bike. If we went, say, with like Duke 390s,
Yeah.
right? Which the Duke 200 and the 390s are the exact same bike, just bigger engine.
Right.
So same wheels, same brakes, same chains, same everything, just different engines.
Yeah.
So we choose the Grom because they are the most versatile for height and agility. Basically, they're very agile motorcycles for our beginners to learn how to do slow maneuvers in parking lots, because anybody can hop on a bike and go fast
Yeah.
in a straight line. You can really see somebody's experience in riding when they start to go slow. And we want our students to be comfortable and be very not comfortable, sorry.
Well, comfortable, yes. I mean,
Yeah, we want them to be comfortable and confident as well, starting off with a bike, because for one, they're already anxious. I'm on two wheels with a motor and I've
Yeah.
never used a clutch. So getting them past that stage with just having a bike that fits them better, or they feel bigger on the bike
Yeah.
instead of the bike being the bigger situation, it'll definitely help with the way that they'll take in their information that they need to take in and accept. So having a smaller bike is, in my opinion, the way to go. I had people this week on courses that had no experience and they were bigger people, and I said, no, start with the Grom. They started with the Grom, and each one of my students that I did that with, and they went up to the bigger bikes, they got 0 demerit points on their exam.
Nice.
So starting off with that and making them comfortable and confident on the smaller bike first, and working them up to a bigger bike, just even in the matter of 16 hours, can do massive with their confidence level.
Yeah.
So
and I think that's what you want to get as a new rider or a beginner rider, or even if you haven't experienced, but you're getting quote unquote Canadian experience. Let's call it that, right?
100%.
I think you want to start off small and then build your confidence up and then go from there. But once you've passed your course and you've done all the stuff, and now you're shopping for your bike, you have a lot of brands that you can choose from.
Absolutely.
You know, your go-tos: Honda, Kawi, Suzuki, Yamaha.
Yep.
Those are your four. And then if you're into cruising, you know, you have your quote unquote Harley, or you have your Indian. Yami makes a cruiser. Kawi makes a cruiser. You also
Honda
have
makes a
Triumphs.
cruiser.
Honda makes a cruiser. So there's different styles and everything like that, and it really boils down to what your style is that you're looking for riding.
Absolutely.
Right now, you're a cruiser guy. Would you go back to a cruiser?
I would love to go back to a cruiser, just to have that option for me and my girlfriend to hop on and go for a night cruise.
Right.
If she's not feeling like she wants to be in control of the bike and she just wants to kind of
zone
out, and she just wants to zone out and look at the lake, because like right here where I am, I'm north of you. You're in Toronto, right? Yeah, so I'm about 45 minutes north. I'm in Keswick, so I've got the lake. I can cruise around the lake. I could do a whole lap around Lake Simcoe in an hour and a half, maybe.
It's nice
maybe
out
2
there
hours.
in Keswick. Yeah.
If I go slow, it could be 2 hours. But if I got a cruiser, she can hop on the back and just zone out watching over the water.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the whole thing. So it really boils down to your preference, but we strongly recommend going, if you're a new rider out there and you're listening, you're watching, we strongly recommend a 500 or less for at least a year, maybe two. Get your feet wet. Make sure you understand how the bike is rolling. Again, but that's if you're an average person, average height, weight. If you're a bigger guy like yourself, myself, and Candyman here, then going into your first bike, like Candyman's first bike that he's riding right now is a 1400, right?
Very first bike.
And it's a cruiser.
I'm on the phone with a bunch of Cowie lovers. What's going on?
You couldn't put me on. You couldn't put me on no 600 and hope to God to make it up a hill. Like that's just not happening.
I rode a 600 last year. I rode an 04 GSXR 600 for the beginning of last year.
Yeah. I rid my R6 maybe twice last year, maybe 3 times last year.
But
I look like a little kid on that.
Those R6s are uncomfortable. They have the most aggressive seating position of all the sport bikes.
Yeah, they do. They do. But you know what? It's fun to ride. Oh, yeah. It's quick. You look kind of neat on it. Absolutely. Right? When you roll up, people are always like, oh, yeah. So that's the appeal of the sports bike. But I also do like the cruisers because, at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt your back. Comfort, it's comfort, everything like that.
I found the opposite.
Sorry, go on.
I found it opposite with me. I've had some injuries at work and stuff like that, so I've got a bad back and I've got a bad shoulder as well. So with my cruiser, I felt my tailbone just got annihilated. My back and my tailbone would go numb within 15, or I'd say probably 40 minutes. Yeah, man. But I hop on my sport bike, I can go for 2 hours. The only thing that gets a little sore is my throttle hand. That's it.
Yeah.
My fingers go numb. That's all.
That's so crazy because I find, and don't get me wrong, I was in a sports touring forever and a day. I was in a cruiser. Then when I got the R6, I found and I understood what all these guys were talking about, like riding for 90 minutes and all of a sudden my back is hurting me.
Yep.
Because of the position that, you can't sit upright properly on that unless you're going, under 100K.
Yep.
Right? After
100%.
that, you're tucked all the way. That's all you do, and you're just tucked, and it drives you crazy sometimes.
It's hard. You've got to use your core too, and that takes a while to get used to.
Yeah.
Right? If you have too much pressure on your hands are going to go numb, and then you can't feel your brakes, your clutch, your grips. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's crazy. So.
Reason, sorry to cut you off there.
Go.
And think about the reason why a lot of people do like the sport bike seating position because it's like a bar stool seating position, right? A guy can go sit at the bar for hours, right? And nothing happens. But you sit in a computer chair all day, your back's killing you, right?
True.
So when you're forward, your ankles are below your hips, you have proper blood flow, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So you have the proper blood flow, so that way when you're sitting back and cruise like that, your spine gets hit by all the bumps. Okay, so your tailbone does take more. That's why on the sport bikes, the bumps don't really affect you as much.
Yeah.
But for long hauls, in my opinion, if I was going to hop on a bike and go for a long haul from here to Florida, it would be on a Goldwing or an adventure bike.
Yep.
So
I took my concourse out to New Brunswick.
Nice.
And it was nice, and everybody was on. We had 2 guys on Africans.
Yep.
And then one on a Harley, big boy Harley, the Road Glide Road Glide, and it was nice. I couldn't imagine doing it on a sports bike or maybe a smaller cruiser.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't work that way. But yeah, you're right. That comfort, you need to get Goldwings standard for long hauls. Everybody, their mother used to have them back in the day. And I think they're bringing back the retro. The 50th anniversary is now the new retro Goldwing.
They
modernized,
are a nice looking bike, man. They
exactly.
really are a sleek, really nice, smooth lines. Like they are a smart looking bike.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy how you go through and you look at different things. Well, let's talk about insurance since we touched upon that. Now, insurance varies, and I know that you're not an insurance broker.
I'm not a broker.
But we've all gone through it. I think if you're listening out there and you want advice, the best thing to do is to look at various insurances, go through brokers, and take a look at the brokers and see what's going on with that. It also depends on the bike that you're going to get,
Massive.
right? Because right now, since I've been in the game, anything under a 600 cc's, you're going to find that it's going to be cheaper. Once you go over that 600 cc's, and we're talking sports bikes right now.
Yep.
Once you go over that 600 cc's, then that's when your age takes a factor. You know, how long you've been riding takes a factor.
Yep.
You know, the type of bike that you're having, because, you know, Yamahas, for instance, are more expensive than the Suzukis,
Yep.
right? And the Kawi's are mid-range. You can get up there. So it all depends on you know, where you are in that spectrum, right, for insurance.
Absolutely.
But as a youngin, I have a friend of mine that just got his bike license last year, and he was paying almost $5,000 for insurance, and he was running a Gixxer 650, and I was like, oh my gosh! I mean, he's young, he's 26, but still,
Yeah.
Crazy.
yeah. No.
No. Well, if you think that's high, just a quick little story. I had a 19-year-old Asian student last year. He had a Panigale V2S, 19 years old. This bike was brand new. He's into my in class, and I'm asking the students what bikes they have or they want to get. And when he told me that he had that, I was like, okay, well, that's just crazy. Anyways,
That.
buddy's spending $2,500 a month,
Oh my god,
$30K a year to insure a bike at 19.
that's crazy.
No,
Well, his
no
parents pay
joke.
for that.
Oh,
That
has to.
no. Like $2,500 for a bike that you're only gonna ride maybe 6 months out of the year.
Mhm.
Oh, jeez.
Well, when I was 18, my first insurance quote on the Yamaha V-Star, it was at 1,100. My first quote with just liability was 7,900 a year.
That's a lot.
That was more than I paid for the bike.
That's a lot, because I had the as I said, my first bike was the Vulcan, and I went through my works insurance, and I was paying $500 $550 for the year.
Wow.
With just liability. That was it. And I was so happy. I was doing my dance and everything like that. And then they stopped insuring motorcycles, which, you know, sucks. So now I'm paying the man. I'm still not actually that bad. On the Concourse, I'm paying 11 for the year, and on the R6, I was paying 9 and change.
Okay.
So not too bad. But
Yeah,
of course,
I just spent, I think last year on my GSX-S,
yeah.
I was $1,190 a year for fire and theft and liability.
Yeah.
So I didn't put collision on it. If I smash the bike up, I'm just gonna fix it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go through that. And this year I bought a few DRZ 400 Supermotos. So I just wanted to give those a try, and they're good bikes that way. Like, I have the availability to store bikes and fix bikes as I'm opening a bike shop here in town.
Okay.
That's just, it's in the works right now. So with that happening, I just kind of catch up on some stock and have it for when I start the season. My students, like DRZ 400s, I pay $530 a year for full coverage with $130,000 accident benefit.
Yeah, see,
So
and that's the whole thing, right?
that was it. I said, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need it for doing M's. So I don't need my 1,000 for doing M testing.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'll buy a cheaper bike. So I picked up a couple of them, so I have extra parts, and then I can fix one up and make $1,000 on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So doing that saved a lot of money on insurance and whatnot. So having a smaller bike and a different style of bike than, say, sport bike or cruiser or whatever, just remember that the cheapest bikes to insure are the either adventure or enduros, because they're technically only going to be on the road for half the time.
Right.
So just to keep that in mind.
And when you talk about that, the enduros, they're more of an upright, kind of like a motocross bike. So just so for those that don't know, that's what we're talking about. They're more of a motocross style. You know, which is, it gets you both dirt and on street. So you're okay with that. Same with the Africans. BMW makes a a nice,
GS.
yeah, the GS.
Beautiful motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's why most of the European police officers ride those, because of their agility.
Yeah, they're very nice to ride. BMW test day is coming up soon too.
Yeah, I want to go there. Do yourself a favor. So one of our instructors, we had the BMW test day at our lot one year, and they had all the bikes there. All the instructors could go out and try them. And according to a few of the instructors, their favorite bikes were the BMW XR 1000.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Those are a sweet motorcycle.
Leader bikes, everybody's getting the BMW RR right now.
Yep. It's a hot item right now. My favorite is the M1000 Single R.
Really?
Yeah. That's my favorite bike. Peter had that bike, and when I saw that, I fell in love with it, and that's my dream bike, just to have one of those. Oh, yeah.
Well, I know that you offered graciously to let me ride your Gixxer 1000.
That's it.
When I come up there. So definitely we're going to do that. You might not see me for a little bit, but...
That's okay. Maybe I'll take the concourse.
Exactly. Take the concourse. So I'll see you back in a little bit. Since you just talked about opening up shop, congratulations. Please let me know when you open up your shop, when everything's going, or when you're getting everything ready. Maybe send me a flyer or something like that. I can post it up and get it out.
Absolutely.
So that we can get there, and I'll start sending people up that way.
That'd be amazing.
So
we'll do everything from basic maintenance, tires, chains, sprockets, all that kind of stuff, accessories, safety inspections. I may get into some engine repair depending on what it is. Right. If it comes into the factor that I need specialty tools, I may or may not do it, but I'll be open to trying anything.
Okay.
So, I'd like to do a couple projects. I've got a couple projects in mind for myself, and maybe get into a project for a customer as well. Maybe we'll see.
All right. That sounds like a plan. So talking about maintenance.
Yep.
We talked about this on my previous show, but pre-maintenance for your bike, what is it that you recommend or should be done? Let's say we're looking at let's use the C90, nice little cruiser.
Okay.
You haven't been riding, it's been sitting. The last time we did the oil change was last year, end of season or mid season. So what do you recommend for cruisers, any type of cruisers, I guess, for doing maintenance on that?
So on the Boulevard C90, right? That's what you were saying?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, the Boulevard.
So who owns the C90?
Big man.
Yeah, that's me. That's
right. Me. Okay. So I'm assuming that is belt drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's not belt drive.
Or is it
direct.
shaft?
It's shaft. Direct drive. Yeah.
Is it liquid cooled? Yep.
No.
No?
Air and oil cooled.
Okay, so it's liquid cooled, and then you have an oil cooler as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So the biggest thing, if you have not done an oil change, the biggest thing would be make sure you do an oil change on it. Okay. The beginning of the year before you run it, because all that oil has dropped down into the oil.
Yeah.
So don't run it. Try to drain it and let it sit and drip out as much as it can. Obviously, oil flows better when it's hot.
Yeah.
Right? So leave it dripping as long as you can. Take the filter off and let it drip. So then you put a good fresh dose of oil inside. Get it going. Fill it up to whatever it needs to be. I don't know what your bike takes. Probably 4 liters?
4.5.
Yeah, so 4.5. Is yours a dry sump or no? Dry sump engine?
I don't think so.
Okay. How many drain plugs do you have?
Do
you know?
Just the one.
Just one. Okay. So, yeah, it potentially could be a dry sump if you have an oil can. It'd be underneath your seat, possibly. You'd have a little oil reservoir. Or does it fill just on the side of the engine?
Yeah, it fills on the side.
Yeah. Okay, so it potentially isn't a dry sump then. But anyways, that doesn't matter. So you drain out all the oil, put the fresh oil in it, and then you can run it. With your bike, did you put fuel stabilizer in it or no?
Yeah.
You just run premium. Okay. Yeah. Do you run premium fuel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was told I had no choice. I would get beaten if I didn't.
Well, I'm glad whoever told you that is very smart.
That was me.
Good. Okay, so treat your motorcycle like it is yourself. If you put shitty food in your system, you're gonna
Yeah.
feel crappy, right?
Yeah.
If you put good food into your body, you're gonna feel better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing with your motorcycle. What's it take? $25 to fill it?
Yeah.
So run premium. It's cleaner for your bike, burns better and
Now,
whatnot.
mhm,
So, but yeah,
question for you. I
yeah,
heard, and I had uh, Jeff on from the Biker Boys, and he was saying that because I always put 94
okay.
in my bike, and he was saying that you should put no more than 93. 94 is just it just runs rougher. I've never had a problem with putting 94
Me either.
on in my bike, so you know,
I've ran it. I've ran it, and I would prefer to have 94 in my bike
yeah,
all the time. I
yeah,
just don't have it at my fingertips here.
yeah,
Um, in my opinion, through automotive and all that kind of stuff, regardless of what fuel you put in your anything, all the fuel has ethanol in it
right,
too. That's another thing to keep in mind. It says may contain up to 10%
yeah,
ethanol, right? But there has been companies to claim that I know Shell was one of them, that
hmm,
their super premium whatever 94 has zero ethanol, which
yeah,
is a complete
yeah,
BS lie.
yeah,
So, in my opinion, I would run the highest octane you can buy at the pump. I wouldn't be going and putting in like anything over like race fuel. I wouldn't be doing that
yeah,
kind of crap. But 91, 93, 94, if you can find 94 perfect, that's just my
yeah.
opinion. Um, but I've had no issues running 94 before. I find my bike runs better with 94.
I find the same thing with my bike too. If I put in 94, it runs much better. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm out and I can only get 91, then that's what I put in
Yep,
because that's all. You have no choice. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
I remember I was riding with a friend of mine, Uncle Sean, and we almost ran out of gas because he refused to put in anything less than 93. So we're out in Midland, driving all over Midland, Ontario, looking for a gas station that had 93. And all of a sudden we found out and we're just like stuttering in the gas station. It's crazy, man. So,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I had an uncle like that when he was out snowmobiling with my brother one time. He was getting low on oil and he didn't want to put whatever the gas station had in for oil. He
yeah,
had to have AMS oil or had to have this. And it's like, just get the oil in your
yeah.
bike so you can get home or
And,
your
and that's the whole
snowmobile.
thing. You're sitting there like, man, we need gas. That's what it is. So, if you suck it up, you burn it out anyways,
Hmm.
right? Just run
Yep,
it out until it's low, and then throw in the proper stuff when you get home.
absolutely.
That's the difference. So going back to maintenance, so oil changes. What about and just for in general, what about doing your overhauls? Like, let's say that you put in 20,000 the season before.
Yep.
So should you be looking at changing out your sparks filter, the air filter? Should you be checking your seals? Like when do you check your fork seals and everything like that? At what kilometer should you be checking all that stuff
Okay.
out?
So like for the oil changes, like you stated with your bike, so I know we kind of got off track with the preseason maintenance. Tires, brakes, oil, and fuel are the biggest things you need to make sure.
Right,
Okay. And checking lights, make sure all that stuff's up to date. With your chain, you're gonna be servicing that about every 1,000 to 1,500 kilometers. But with the shaft drive, you can do it every 2 to 3 oil
right,
changes. It's like six ounces of
yeah,
oil. Okay.
yeah,
Um, checking your tires for wear marks, flat spots, try to elevate them off the ground if you can, or put them
right,
on carpet or a piece of wood, right? Concrete will suck the moisture out of the
yeah,
tires. So, that's for your bike. Take a look at that stuff, your brakes, your tires, and all that, your final drive oil, make sure it's clean, your brake fluid. I've been riding for like probably 16-ish years now, and I've
yeah,
never serviced brake fluid in my life. Okay. It is not mandatory. If you have discoloration in it, then yes, that is a sign of moisture, and moisture boils way, or water boils way sooner than brake fluid.
right,
So that's the reason you're going to want to service it if it's discolored. I don't believe in I have to do it every season or every 2 seasons. If you have discoloration in your brake fluid, then exchange it, clean it out, suck it out, and put fresh in.
Okay.
It's the
So
biggest
basically,
upsell in the automotive industry is a brake fluid flush. It's the biggest upsell in the industry. Sorry.
so basically, if your brakes aren't clear, if your brake fluid is clear, don't do nothing.
You're
Once
good.
you get the little discoloration, then bleed and put the new stuff in there.
That's it, man. Honestly, don't waste your time with that, especially if the dealer, because a buddy of mine, he was $185 for them to service his brake fluid. I'm like, dude, it takes like 4 minutes.
Yeah, well, a little bit longer than 4 minutes, but
no, serious. It doesn't take long. I'd say probably 20 minutes tops to do the front and back.
Exactly. 20 minutes. It's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because unless you have that little machine that they can pump, it starts sucking out the oil and does it for you. It's a tedious little project to do. So
if you spend a little bit of money and get a vacuum bleeder, potentially, what you can do, if you don't want to spend too much money, have somebody with a long syringe. Okay, so nothing too small. There's something you can pick up fluid fairly quick. If you put an adapter on your brake fluid bottle, you crack open your bleeder screw and you force fluid from the bottom up, and they suck it out of the master cylinder way faster. And you're guaranteed to get everything out of the system.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Well, see, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You learn something new every day.
Anything I can help with.
Exactly. Okay, so brakes, tires, you got to make sure for flat slots. As you said, concrete, most of us have it sitting on the concrete, and then you're going to get your flat spots. You're going to get the drainage because all of a sudden your tires are a little flat on one side. I tried to, my bike's up on stands anyways. So I try to tell everybody, like, get a bike stand, something that's for your bike so that you can raise it off the ground when you're storing it in the wintertime, especially if you're storing it in the garage.
You can get a set of sport bike stands I bought a set off Amazon, $115.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's cheaper than a set of $800 tires.
Yep.
So
trust me. Also, what about other fluids like your rad fluid?
Yep. Coolant for sure.
Yeah, your coolant. What about
the thing with coolant? I started riding with dirt bikes. That was my very first thing. I was about 14 or 15, I think, when I got my first dirt bike. And a couple of my buddies were quite good racers. A buddy of mine was a pro racer, and he recommended that I run a thing called Engine Ice.
Yeah.
Okay. That is, they guarantee your bike to run 50 degrees cooler. Okay. So that, if you're ever going to be doing a coolant flush on your bike, I highly recommend doing the flush and putting in what they call engine ice.
Engine ice.
Yeah.
All right.
So just to drop your operating temperature down by about 50% is what they guarantee is 50 degrees cooler than factory coolant.
Well, that's not bad.
Especially guys that ride in the city. You're stuck stop and go traffic.
Well, riding in the city is a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't really city riding.
Don't lie.
No, listen, I ride city in the nighttime, but during the daytime, I don't want to go in the city.
Not at all.
People are stupid. That's the whole thing. People are stupid. Like, you live out in the bush. No offense, you're in Keswick. You're out in the bush, so it's a little bit different. But out here in Toronto, people are just dumb.
The congestion is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's not fun. At that point in the daytime, it's not fun. You're too busy watching for Jane doing her makeup and not paying attention with that right hand turn, or this dude eating a sub while pushing through a red light. Like, it's not fun anymore in the daytime. At night, you can get away with it because people tend to go home sometimes.
Yeah.
But in the daytime, riding in the city in the day is just stress.
I'll come down this summer and I'll ride down there with you boys.
All right. What else can we? So we got the tires, we got the oil change. You got anything that you're thinking of?
How about chains? All of our sport bike riders,
I know,
with maintaining their chains.
Sorry, hold on. All
the sport bike riders, they're maintaining their chains.
Yes, the chains. Now, how often? I mean, on the R6, I clean the chain every other time that I ride.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Just
I do it every about 500 kilometers
okay.
is what I do mine. So if I get caught in rain,
Yeah.
every time. Okay, clean it,
Yeah.
lubricate it.
Yeah.
But the key is for the new riders out there, if anyone here's new listening, guys, do not lube your chain before you go for a ride. Okay? Please do not do it before you go for a ride. Just think about that. It's going to spin around. It's going to end up all over your beautiful motorcycle, and we take pride in our
Mm-hmm.
bikes. And what is that sprocket right beside? It is beside your tire
Yep.
and your brakes. Okay. And if you've never had anything affect your braking before, you're lucky. But if this gets on your brakes, you won't be so
Yeah,
lucky.
you'd be done. So
So,
yeah, that
but yeah,
makes a lot of sense. And again, sports bikes versus cruisers is a little different because you have. Do they actually make a sports bike with a shaft drive?
no,
I don't think they do.
no, I
No.
don't think so
Yeah.
either. If they do, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a specific like full fairing
Yeah.
sport bike style that would have a shaft.
Yeah.
Be more or less like a sport touring, possibly just for the smoothness.
Yeah. Well,
So,
mine is shaft drive,
yeah,
and I'm on a sports touring,
there
so
you
I
go.
get that. And I know that the original ZX14 is
Yep.
chain, so it makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think you need that also for the torque and for the speed wise,
Yep.
right?
Well, you've got too many balancing issues with a
Yeah,
shaft, right? You can still hit high speeds, but they use it on the more sport touring because they don't expect people to ride the same style.
exactly. Aggressive
Yeah.
and you know highly dangerous. Well, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, aggressive. Let's call it that. Let's leave it
That's
at aggressive.
yeah.
So how well getting your M1 or getting your license? You can get your license at what 16 for the M1 for
Yep.
motorcycles still.
Yep.
So that is not too bad. So anybody that's looking, I find that if you're younger and you get it, and you get a nice, decent bike, something under the 500, you can get fairly decent insurance, and at least you can start with a bike insurance and then move over to your car insurance, and then you have that ability to say, well, I've been riding or I've been driving for X amount of time, so you have that experience.
Yep.
When you're training people, what is the most common thing that you see in training new riders? Let's call it the common mistakes that you see in training new riders.
The biggest and most common mistake that I see and that I'm constantly having to fix is where people put their eyes
Yeah,
while they're riding and constantly trying to fix their seating position.
their
So,
seating position
yeah,
because
seating position is very important on how you have your experience on your
yeah,
motorcycle.
yeah,
Okay, we got to look at it kind of like like trees. Okay, when we put our body on that motorcycle, we need to be grounded into that bike with our
right,
legs. That's what keeps us attached to that motorcycle is our legs. Now, if we come into a corner or something and we stick our legs out, we have now caused a wind drag on that said side. We've also thrown the center of gravity of the motorcycle off, right?
yeah,
So keeping our knees attached to the gas tank is definitely going to help with that. Okay, so that's one of the biggest things that I have. And another thing is for beginners is they go online and they watch videos of how to ride a motorcycle, and people teach them to use two fingers on the brakes.
yeah. Well,
So yes, it's comfortable that way. It's easier that way. In your head, it's easier, but there's also risks to using two fingers on brake levers. So
mm-hmm.
to each their own. If people want to believe that it is safer to have two fingers hovering, it actually is more dangerous having two fingers hovering because your hand is on your throttle, you are applying pressure on your throttle, and as soon as you go to grab your fingers on the brake lever, you actually will increase your RPM if you
Yeah,
don't do it properly.
yeah,
So
and
seating
then
position and where they put their head.
exactly. Seating position where they put their hands on their brakes. You don't want to accidentally do a wheelie
Yeah.
and wipe out.
And looking down, constantly looking down and not turning their head in corners. Motorcycles
Yeah.
go exactly where you look. Okay, they're very simple machines, but us as human beings, we make them complicated.
Like
So,
I was having a conversation, and sorry to cut you. I was having a conversation and saying that motorcycles, you know, when you see guys wipe out or high side or low side, motorcycles always want to be upright.
yep,
And a lot of people think that, you know, it doesn't. Motorcycles want to stay upright. That's why
absolutely.
videos where guys fall off and their bike is just upright and going straight. Bikes want to stay up. They don't want to fall unless they lose the momentum. They always want to stay up. So,
Yep.
you know, it's something that to be aware of. Your bike, yeah, if you're leaning, your bike always wants to go against you and come back up. You know what I'm saying? So
100%. If you hit the throttle, you tell the bike to stand up and go straight, and if you hit the brakes, you tell it to fall over.
that's it. So that's
Very easy machine.
very simple, very easy. So for all you new people listening out there looking at getting bikes or wanting to get bikes, those are things that you have to look into and be aware of. As for maintenance, you really want to take care of your bike in the preseason. You want to get everything like oil changes, check your tires, check your chain, check all the pressures, make sure your seals aren't cracked or broken. You know, check for any kind of leaks or anything like that. Is there anything that you recommend as for cleaning your bike? Like,
Ooh, okay. Depending on the style of your bike, right?
hmm,
I know when I was big into dirt biking, we would get covered in mud and covered in dirt, so we would just pressure wash them
right?
usually. I used to use a product called S100.
Yeah,
It was a kind of a spray on wash off. It was great for dirt bikes.
yeah.
Use that forever. But if you have a dirt bike or that style of bike and you want to pressure wash it and stuff like that, you can get these things. They're called a bung plug, and they go in the exhaust pipe, so you're not
Okay,
getting water inside. Okay. But I've pressure washed my bikes. I usually try to, like, my cruiser was a show bike, so I very seldom pressure wash that. I never used a brush. I always hand washed that. It was always either quick detailer or
yeah,
wax.
yeah.
I would never use the same microfiber on it twice. Like, I was very anal with this bike.
Okay,
So pressure washing, it's if it's that was just me being over needy with that motorcycle. I took very good care of that, so I was anal about the paint. Had airbrushed murals all over the
yeah,
motorcycle, so I
yeah,
took very good care of
yeah.
it.
You said it was
But
a bike, right?
yeah,
So
it was basically a show bike. I used to go to shows all the time with it. It was great, but I also rode it.
yeah,
So it wasn't perfect, but it was one of a kind. You'd never see another one like it again. It was absolutely beautiful. But
yeah. Well,
yeah.
here's another question because you mentioned pressure washing, um, versus hand washing. Now, I used to pressure wash my concourse. I hand washed my Vulcan, but I stopped pressure washing my concourse only because I got water into one of the electronics, and then I killed the motor for
Yep.
the shield for the windscreen. So
Yep.
I don't.
So with motorcycles, guys, yes, if you want to pressure wash them, do it at your own risk. But remember, these bikes, yes, some of our controls and stuff are water tight, but rain doesn't come out of something at 1,000 psi.
Exactly.
Okay, you will force water into electrical components, and that definitely will void the warranty if you have warranty on your bike.
Yeah.
Okay. So remember, if you want, you can use like a hose. Hose isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. But definitely pressure washing, you can do it, but I try to stay away from it. If I do, keep the wand a fair bit away from
Yeah.
it. Okay. You're just trying to remove the soap. You're not trying to blow dirt off. That's why you've washed it with your hands.
Yeah.
So just to avoid having that issue happen, because it's happened to me too.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they want to charge you $1,000 to replace a motor. I'm like, bro, really? That's what we're talking. I'll just leave it as is. So I haven't fixed it. It's it's still the same, So can't do anything other than that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
Yep. So yeah.
But any questions you got for And anything that you might want to pick this man's brain on?
At the moment, not really. I mean, we haven't started yet. We're overzealous. We're getting a little excited for the season to start, but
Yeah, me too.
it's all in the preparation, I guess, right?
Have you been outside today?
I was outside on the patio. Well, not patio, on the deck. I haven't been outside to actually ride. It's really nice outside. I got a lot of guys that are gone.
It's
It is
11 degrees when I was coming over.
Yeah.
Right now where I am, I think we're almost 16.
Jeez.
It is riding day today.
Yeah. But the thing is, even though it is a riding day, and you know what? I'll ask your opinion. It is a riding day. It's beautiful.
Yep.
It's still not riding season in the sense of it's still got salt and brine on the road, all kind of debris, right? The roads are still cold.
Yep.
So, and maybe you can say this: there's a different style of riding when it comes to riding in colder weather, right? Like winter kind of season changing than it is going in from summer to fall.
Yep.
Right. So, what should people watch out for as they ride, especially on a day everybody and their mother's going to be trying to get out today? So, what should they be watching for when they ride it?
Every corner that you come into is going to have debris.
Yep.
Okay. And we don't hit our brakes in corners on motorcycles. That's a racing application. But remember to accelerate slower, brake earlier, slow down earlier, things like that. Being cautious of approaching intersections and things like that because people aren't looking for bikes yet.
Right.
Okay. In my opinion, riding season doesn't start until the road sweepers have gone out.
Hey, see?
Okay.
Yeah, tell you, man, road sweepers got to get out there.
That's it. I've been out a couple times, but I refuse to take my sport bike out. All I take out's my DRZ.
Yeah.
I bought 3, like I said, I'm keeping 1 for myself, and I only rip that around because it's slower, it's smaller, it's more nimble, and I can control that in no matter what happens for the most
Right.
part. Where the GSX-S, it can get out of hand at any time.
Yeah.
Right. So I try to use extreme caution this time of year and try to stay like just in the main town areas. I try not to venture too far.
And that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to have something like I said, I haven't taken out the R6 blind. Mind you, I'm selling it, so I shouldn't be riding it anyways.
Yep.
But yeah, I was even thinking about taking out the Concourse just for a little rip around because I'm used to riding in this weather. Like I can ride in this weather. I know what to look out for and everything.
Absolutely.
Like that. But also a lot of people when the temperatures are 16 like up by you and 13, 11, 13 over here, they forget that temperature is you got a 4-hour window at that temperature, right? And guys end up staying later than they should, and then they get into the 7, 5, and then if you're listening out there and you've never ridden before, 7 degrees, you minus usually about 4 degrees difference when you're riding. 4 to 5 degrees.
At least. And depending, if you're highway riding, it can be upwards of 8 to 10 degrees.
Exactly. So then you get cold, and then you're shivering, and the ground is still not cold, not warm enough for sticking. So you tend to go a little bit faster, but you can't do anything because you're in that situation. Your tires are still cold. Your tires don't warm up as fast as it would in the summertime. So you really have to be wary of your timeline when you get these beautiful weathers and it's not summer.
Yep.
Right? So
absolutely.
That's a crazy thing. Now, why did you decide to start a shop?
So I have an automotive background.
Okay.
So my family's owned a business here in town. My grandfather started it in 1973.
Okay.
Then my dad bought it in his early 20s, and he's kind of done it for forever that I'm aware of, right? He was like, I think he said he was 20 or 21 when he became a part owner, and I think by 23 he was full owner.
Yeah.
And we built it up. My brother and my sister and myself, we worked together, and I had some family things go on. I needed more
Right.
flexible hours, so I had to. I seen Peter in the mall parking lot one
Yeah.
day, and I said, "Hey, what's it take to become an instructor?" He's like, "All you need is your license." I'm like, "Okay, are you looking for people?" And then boom, I found my passion.
Yeah.
It is the most fulfilling job ever to watch a student come in from never touching a motorcycle to watching them smile and walk away with their license and earning that license
Yeah. Right.
to it is like the most fulfilling job I've ever done.
Well,
I'm a licensed automotive mechanic. I've worked on cars. I've been in the industry since I was 13. I
yeah.
was doing tires and oil changes at 13, and my dad told me either you get a job or you owe me $200 a week rent. And I'm like, well, if I don't, I don't have a job, I can't pay rent. So I went and started working at the shop, pumping
Yeah.
gas and doing tires and oil
Yeah.
changes. And I was a licensed mechanic as of 21 and did that forever. And then I've been three seasons at RideSafe.
Nice.
So,
And
but yeah, the reason I want to start a shop is we don't really have one here in town. We have a Harley specific shop out in a small town called
okay.
Pefferlaw, but
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no, that's strictly V twin, but there's no bike shops in
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
So,
Which, you know what, actually makes a lot of sense doing that, because there's a lot of riders out there, right? There's a lot of riders, and Keswick is one of those spots where everybody wants to go to because of the lake, the Simcoe, and how long you can ride along the lake for.
Yep.
Right. Like, it's
They just
beautiful.
converted it actually this year. They're making a section of Lake Drive one way
Oh,
only.
really?
So it's going to be one lane is for bikes and pedestrian walking, and the other side's going to be one-way vehicle traffic.
Okay.
So it's going to be better in some ways and worse in some ways. Like my thought is how are emergency vehicles going to get to certain places?
Right.
There's only so many offshoots that come out to the other main
Yeah.
road. But for the motorcycle stuff, you don't get the people looking over at the water and then the other guys doing the same
Yeah.
thing and bump into each other,
Yeah.
or cars because people just they're looking at the
Yeah, of
lake.
course.
So
Of course, because that's the scenery. We as motorcycle enthusiasts, we always looking for that scenery.
yep,
You know, someplace to go different where you can see and experience different things and see different things and go from there.
100%.
You know, you have the campers where if you don't know what a camper is you know, you go to like Tim Hortons or whatever and you sit there for 12 hours. You sit there for 12 hours just going, hey, man, my bike is this and my bike is that. And then
looking pretty as not running.
exactly.
Yep.
And then you go home. And I hate that. I mean, I do go and hang out in the sense of just going to show my face and ask who's going riding or if anybody want to come riding and then disappear. But I can't sit there and camp
No,
for 2-3 hours. And
I
wait.
used to be able to. I used to be able to, and I had my show
Yeah.
bike. I'd go there and I'd show it off and see all the people. And now, the only time I really go to the bike nights and
Yeah.
stuff, even bike nights, they've
Yeah.
become boring.
It-
They've become something that people, all these young kids on these sport bikes go there and just rev the bag off their bikes.
Yeah.
Man. Like, it's annoying.
It is. It is. They show up, they say, and next guy, what are we doing? And then
Yeah.
they want to do donuts or they want to do burnouts, and then the whole place closes down because now the owner comes out and says, yeah, you guys can't be here no more.
Yep.
It's
I'll go and show my face. Every time I go, I wear RideSafe just to get the name
Yeah.
out there, so they're constantly seeing it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would rather ride there, walk around once, and then 6, 8, 10, 12 of us, let's go for a ride down Yonge Street, or let's
Yeah.
go somewhere for grab a bite to eat. So
Exactly. Well, talking about that, we're going to be doing some food run Fridays coming up in the season. So, you know,
all right.
I'll be picking your brain for maybe a spot other than the what's that restaurant that everybody goes to that's out there? By the
Like
lake.
in Newmarket?
No,
Or Keswick?
Keswick.
Boston. There's
You guys have
Boston Pizza that's on the river.
no, not that one. The
Beach.
one. The beach, yeah, the beach one where you can walk down right there. Yeah. So other than that, we have to find another spot up there because.
I've got some spots for you.
All right, good. So I'll pick your
Yeah.
brain. I'll pick your brain later on about that stuff and go from there. As we're moving, we're talking about bikes. 416-804-8244. For those that want to have some questions asked or answered, we're talking to Scott from Ride Safe Training Institute, and he's here just telling us a little bit about everything that's going on, things that you can do maintenance wise, bike wise, bikes that you should look into as a new rider. As somebody who is an existing rider and wants to upgrade, let's go from, because I've done it, go from a cruiser to sports, because you've done that too.
Yep.
Right?
I did.
What was the biggest draw, I guess, or what made you switch?
So the initial thing that made me switch from the cruiser to the sport bike was I was at Ride Safe. They don't really have any cruisers there other than the
Yeah.
Rebel, and it is a very awkward motorcycle to ride. And I was riding the Duke 200s,
Okay.
and I really enjoyed the seating position. I enjoyed the agility of the motorcycle, and I said, you know what? I'm going to try the sport bike realm. So I ended up getting a GSXR 600, and I rode that for about 2,000 kilometers last season. I did a whole bunch of work to it, made it look gorgeous. And actually, the person that really got me into changing to a sport bike was Brandon.
Oh yeah.
It was Brandon, and seeing his GSXS 750, I just loved the look of it.
Yeah.
I loved the look of it. I loved the sound of it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to bypass the 750. I'm going to go to the 1000. I was originally looking at the Yamaha FZ9.
Yeah.
And I came across this GSXS with all carbon body, and it looked gorgeous. I said, you know what? I think that's the bike. I drove down and picked it up. And honestly, the only reason I regret selling my cruiser was because it was one of one.
Yeah.
That's it. I love riding my sport bike. It is the throttle response is like instant. The
Yeah.
sound, it gives me a whole different feeling of being on a motorcycle on that sport bike.
And I think when you transition, like, you have to do both. I think you have to do both. And as you get older, you know, as I said, I got 20 years on you. As you get older,
rest in peace to Brandon.
Yeah,
like
rest
someone
in
said
peace.
in the comments.
That's right.
That's my boy right there.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
You know, and I was there at the memorial ride that you guys did.
Yeah, Jade and I set that up. Her and I did a pretty good job. A lot of guys rallied up real quick. We had over 98 bikes.
Yeah, I know. I was there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, we pulled good for him. Yeah. We did well.
Yeah. And I didn't get a chance to meet him, but just by talking and hearing everybody talk about him, I can understand that he was well loved and liked in the community. So
I was friends with Brandon before I started at Ride Safe. Him and I were friends back. Oh my gosh, this was when I'd say probably I would have been 22.
Yeah.
I was friends with him for a while, and then we kind of went separate ways with life and whatever. And I got married and had a kid, and he got married and had a kid, and then I ended up getting divorced, and then he did, and we kind of reconnected at Ride Safe, and it was like we never stopped talking. And I worked a lot with Brandon at Ride Safe, spent a lot of time on the lot with him and learned a lot from him. And I've just kind of made it kind of my thing to bring more awareness. My girlfriend's late husband actually passed away on a bike as well. And it really fueled me to help people keep safe on the roads, because I'm tired of people that I know dying.
And that's the whole thing. The flip side of riding is the deaths, and a lot of people think that it's speed that causes, you know, a lot of people to wipe out or die, but it really boils down to the other people, the other drivers and stuff that are on the road, because, you know, you can be aware of all your surroundings, but it takes that one person to make a left in front of you, or to, you know, be eating their burger and like I said, to be eating their burger and all of a sudden sideswipe you, and there's nothing that you can do about it, right?
Yeah,
And unfortunately, most of the
that's true.
deaths that we have is through other people, not through the neglect, let's call it, of the rider doing, a wheelie here and on the 400 or whatever,
Yeah.
or ripping through a 2K, 200K. It's not. It's usually just somebody, going home or thing. I've lost a lot of friends, literally just going home.
No, I completely understand that. And it is a kind of a controversial situation where I do believe and I do agree with you on the whole factor of there are a lot of factors with other people that
Yeah,
have caused it. But to speak true facts, 90% of motorcycle accidents, the rider's at fault.
yeah,
Okay. Intersections, that's where about 85 to 90% of all motorcycle accidents happen are at intersections.
yeah,
Okay. Um, the motorcyclists and the people in the motorcycle community are so easy to just throw it on the car driver that it's their fault, right? And to some extent it is.
yeah.
But the whole factor is what is the first thing that the car driver says when they hit that bike?
I didn't see him.
And whose fault is that?
Well, that would be, well,
Right?
depends, right? I mean, this is the whole factor about pipes,
Yep.
right? We go into having loud pipes because we want to be heard,
Yep,
right?
for sure.
You want somebody to hear you coming by, and it's the same thing being seen. But
When do you hear that motorcycle?
usually, depending on how loud your pipes are, usually about 2 minutes before the motorcycle's passing you.
Before
You know?
or two, or is it?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So loud, and I have that argument. Loud pipes don't save lives because you usually only hear them as they pass you.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Correct? Right. So loud pipes will save you if you're talking about deterring animals from the road, hands
Yeah.
down. But sport bikes, they're going to hear you when you're past them.
Yeah.
Cruisers, okay, that percussion off the road will create some noise for
Yeah.
them to hear. Yes. Sport bikes, unfortunately, you hear them mostly as they pass.
Well, and
right?
that's the whole thing. As you hear, like, and again, if you're not used to it, that is what happens, right? Because I can hear a bike from miles. I ride,
exactly. There it is.
I can hear. I'm in the car and I can hear it. I'm like, oh, bike's coming, and sure enough, a couple seconds later,
oh yeah,
right? Or even just standing and saying, okay, I'm walking on the street. I can hear the bikes coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can hear it before you see it. I can hear it. I say, okay, there's 1, 2, 3 guys coming up, whatever.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're just in you don't ride, then that's a whole different thing, right?
And the other thing, the one thing I would like to mention with a lot of the newer vehicles nowadays, okay, most of the newer style vehicles, they actually play a low frequency vibration through the inside of the car to lower the road noise.
Right.
Okay. That will also affect hearing as well by not hearing bikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Even Hyundai's, like cheaper, lower end cars, they have that same like sound detonation, right? It's wild. Playing that low frequency through the car removes a lot of the outside noise. So that's another thing people need to be keeping their eyes open for is the car drivers, yes, they are at fault. Okay.
Right.
But us as a motorcycle community, we have to take responsibility for our actions, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we are seen. How many riders do you know that have a black bike, a black helmet, black jacket, black pants? And we want to be seen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, my helmets are always bright. I like colorful helmets, so I make sure that I have something. And yeah, I do have 3 black jackets. I got a blue. But you're right. You want to be out there and seen. But let's face it, a lot of the guys that ride, we want to look cool too.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
We want to look cool too.
Yeah.
Right.
just remember, I'm more pushing towards the new riders.
Yes.
Make sure, because they don't understand where they need to be
Yeah.
approaching an intersection, through a corner, da 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 da.
Yeah.
We show them in 16 hours. As soon as they walk away from that lot, I hope they remember, but who knows,
Yeah.
right? So new riders, make yourself visible. Make sure you're bright. Put lights on your motorcycle.
Yeah. I mean, we have people that get hit by cars because they make lefts from the right lane. They'll pass, like what we just talked about this earlier, passing the intersection, and everything is clear, and then all of a sudden this person decides, oh, this is where I'm supposed to turn. And without even paying attention or looking, they're just making the turn right in front, and at that time you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you're seeing you're in bright colors and everything like that, you can't do anything.
No.
Right? You're just at the mercy. So yes,
you just got to be aware. You just got to be aware of the surroundings.
Exactly. You got to be aware of the surroundings. You got to get your point on, and you got to look. A friend of mine, when I first started riding, he used to wear a fluorescent, the safety green jacket. You could see this guy from a mile away. like I was, bro, that's so bright, you blind me. Had to wear sunglasses. Thing
riding behind me.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you can see, and people will pay attention to that because it's just super bright.
Yeah.
Right. Talking about safety, Ride Safe, a great institute to learn how to ride. I have a few people that have gone through your the Ride Safe Institute. So even this guy here has gone through the Ride Safe. So
who was your instructor?
Yoshi.
Oh, you had Shelly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shelly's great.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from Shelly as well.
She always mentions, she's like, she said everybody wants to point fingers at when guys get into accidents and stuff like that, and she's like, but she goes, but how many fingers are pointing back at you?
Exactly.
So it's like you always really realize what you did, or what you could have done to possibly prevent the accident, right? So I mean, while I agree with the sense that people out there really don't pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, we also gotta take responsibility into were you really visual, were you seen, were you really minding the speed limit, were you really paying attention to what's going on? You know what I mean? Because you're putting yourself at risk, right?
Yep.
And the car can, play that naive, dumb, oh, I didn't see you, didn't know you were there. But it's like, what did you do to kind of either be seen or to avoid, the problem in the first place, right? So it's always, that's what she always says. She always made it a point to say, she goes, you're pointing the finger, but there's 3 other fingers pointing back at you. Yeah. So there's something that you could have done differently to avoid that accident. So
I love that terminology, because if you look at your hand and you point at someone, there's 3 at you. You have to remember that, man.
That
I'm so glad you said that.
Differently, clearly.
Well, I don't do anything wrong, so
never. Never. Not my boy Jay.
Well, we got 10 minutes left in the show. I'll say thank you now, because this is the 10 minutes is going to disappear like it's nothing. So first, I'll say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come on the show and talk to us about motorcycle riding, safety, what bikes we should get.
I appreciate it. This is my first time doing this, so I'm pumped. This was great. I had a blast.
There you go. So don't worry, we're gonna promote your shop. Like I said to you earlier, make sure you let me know what's going on. We'll even do a ride out to the shop.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe do a little barbecue outside there, the shop and everything like that, and do something nice. So
we'll grand opening or something.
Exactly. So we'll do that. Is there anybody that you'd like to say or shout out to that might be listening, or
honestly, the biggest shout out right now would be to you two for having me on here. This was great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and I would love to do this again.
Of course.
I'd love to talk about motorcycles and get people out there, and thank you to Ride Safe Peter Semanis. I look up to him like a father.
Mm-hmm.
I've only known him for a year and a half, 2 years, but when I chill with him, I'm out riding or in the vehicle with him, it's like I'm sitting with my dad.
Yeah.
It's great. So shout out to
Peter's
him.
a good
And
guy.
oh, I love him to death. So, and just all the guys I work with. I don't know if anyone's on here that I work with, but um, yeah. Well, Wendy's here. I remember Wendy.
Mm-hmm. So,
So
see, you got people listening. It's all good. That's the whole thing, right? At the end of the day, we just want to be safe. We want to make sure that everything is good and everything is proper. So if you're listening and you're new, please take some advice from us old dogs, especially from Scott, trainer, of how things go and what you can do when you're riding, what to look out for. I'd like to thank Candyman for showing up, you know, for coming through. 8 minutes left in the show. Lastly, let's say, what is it that for the season? What is it that you're hoping to get out of the season, Scott? I mean, I know you be training and stuff, but ride wise, what are you hoping to get out of the season?
the biggest goal I've got is to eventually, hopefully, make the time to get up to my cottage up in
Okay.
Huntsville, just outside of Algonquin Park, to see my grandparents.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've got a goal of about 5 or 6 thousand kilometers to hit this year, which my average the past couple of years have been about 8 to 10,000. So
Okay.
just busy with work and
Yeah.
kids and whatnot. I've got 4 kids, so it's busy, but
Yeah.
doing that training as much as I can, and being part of the motorcycle community and keeping everybody
Yeah.
safe is my biggest goal this year.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's good. On average, I do about 12,000 K. I want to try and pass 15 this year.
yeah,
So,
that ain't no Shelly mileage. That girl pumps out 70,000 K a season. She's an animal.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. And listen, I can't do it. Now, I have friends that push it, but I mean, you got work, you got everything like that going on. So,
Yeah.
that's my goal. I'm a lightweight right now, but I'm trying to get into those big numbers.
Yeah, it's hard for me to find the urge to go out and just pleasure ride now. Last year really kind of screwed me up with everything that
Yeah.
happened, and it completely just wiped away my urge to go out and pleasure ride, and I want to try to get that back this year.
All right. Well, that's good. Listen, I'm gonna help you.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna help you. We're definitely gonna do a ride out to your shop. We'll definitely go around. You can take us around. As we can, and do a ride from the shop.
Absolutely.
Around back. And let's get some things, maybe routes and stuff that I haven't been on. So we can do that. So that's what it is. We got 6 minutes left in the show. So I will say thank you again so much for coming on to the show.
My pleasure.
The show. Enjoy the rest of your day. Right.
Thank you, boys.
Definitely,
you as well.
Definitely, I will link you up a little bit later because we still got to talk about t-shirts and other things. So, I'll definitely link you up a little bit later.
Yeah,
and we can get done.
But anybody that wants to contact me, they can reach out here. Okay. There, if anyone wants to screenshot that.
There you go. Screenshot it. We have Scott is the best instructor ever from Radmer.
Yeah, he's one of my students from last season.
So there you go. Best instructor ever. So you got your students listening, which is all good.
Yeah.
And this is what we do this for. It's for information, getting out there, making sure that people are safe, right? Because in order to ride safe, you got to be safe. So
absolutely,
that's the whole thing, and you have to know what it is that you're doing before you can get into all that stuff, right? So
yeah, man. And anyone in here, I think I've got most of everybody in here on Instagram, but if anyone that sees this, they can check my Instagram out, send me a message, and I'm more than welcome to help you guys out with any questions you guys have with riding, with maintenance, with bike selection, anything you want. Little anxious being the first time on camera doing it, but
I know. But listen, that's honestly, most people that come on the show for the first time, that they're very anxious. They're a little nervous because they're afraid of making mistakes or not saying the right thing. And we just flow. We just go with it.
I'm human, buddy. I'm going to make mistakes.
Exactly. That's what we do. You're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes. So that's what it is. But again, thanks one more time. You want to say anything?
Nah, man, we just appreciate the info, bro.
Yeah,
Honestly,
thank you.
knowledge, the wealth of knowledge is great.
Exactly, and that's what we want to do. We want to get knowledge out there. We want to make sure that people understand that this is a hobby, but it can be a dangerous hobby if you're not prepared to do the work to make yourself safe.
100%, man. Every time you throw your leg over that motorcycle, your life is at risk.
Exactly. And that's something that, we have to understand. And it's something that if you ride, you understand that 100%.
Yep.
You know that.
Absolutely. You have to respect the machine.
Exactly. You have to respect your machine. And I think a lot of people, especially the youngins, they get in there and they don't really respect the machine that is in between their legs.
No, their ego's too big, man. And you know what ego stands for? Edging God out, bro.
Exactly. They don't know what they got.
If you have an ego on a motorcycle, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get hurt.
Yep.
So drop your ego. You're out there to ride for you, no one else. That's it. If you're with a group of guys that they've ridden way longer than you, you're out of your comfort zone. Just fall back a bit. Ride your own ride.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't. They do things that they're not in the wheelhouse to do.
No.
You see your buddy. Oh, he's doing this. Well, he's been riding for 12 years. I've just started riding. I can't do that.
Yep.
Even though it looks nice and everything, I can't do it. Nope. I mean, look, I've been riding. I said I've been riding for 15 years. Last year was the first year that I learned how to do a burnout.
Oh, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to do it, but I'm like, okay, this thing, and I got the R6, so I said, hey, let me learn on that, and I learned how to do burnouts. So now I can do them, and I'm done. I'm not trying to do it every time I go somewhere or anything like that. No, I don't have that.
Too expensive.
Yeah, exactly. They're too expensive.
Then we feel like those young dumb idiots that ruin a bike night when we do a burnout.
Exactly. Like, what the hell? So yeah, I get 100% where you come from. Again,
you broke the cherry. Now you're moving.
Exactly. On. Now, when next thing to do is do a wheelie and then.
Oh God. You're a bad influence.
I know.
Bad influence.
That's the next thing, and then I'll be done.
Okay, I got a guy that can teach you how to do that.
All right, perfect. See, there you go. So we'll definitely be hooking. All right, my friend. Listen, have a great day. Enjoy. Thank you again for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
And we will talk to you later.
That's anytime. Scott. Thanks, guys.
Out here, ride safe. Bless. Say peace. We'll talk to you soon.
Out, guys.
All right.
Have a blessed day. Cheers.